Get started with Zack Wheeler. First question for Zack. Start with John on the left.
Hi, Zack. JT was talking about your ability to locate well with quality stuff in the zone. What's your process been like to have that better command in the zone as time has gone on?
I kind of, every time that question comes back, it always goes back to me having Tommy John, just trying to clean up my arm path. When I came back from that, obviously got a lot of time just to kind of tinker and fool with stuff and maybe watch other guys or, talk to guys. Like I talked to DeGrom and, those guys because they went through it before I did. So, just trying to clean up the arm path to protect the elbow a little bit more. And once you start digging into that, you start messing around with stuff. So, I cleaned that up. But I think the biggest thing for me was getting rid of, I used to curl my wrist. When I broke it out of my glove, I used to curl my wrist. And that's just one more thing that had to catch up before I went to the plate. And as soon as I got rid of that, it was night and day. And then, I think the other part is, this pitching. Just getting those innings underneath my belt and knowing how my stuff is going to move consistently, fastball and, off speed. So once I got everything kind of honed in, it kind of turned around for me.
A few more for Zack. Come up here in the front on the left.
How you doing? And congratulations on being here. Rob just talked about consistent pitching as being one of the biggest strengths that the Phillies have in this postseason. I want you to talk about your mental process a little bit, how you stay in the game, especially when you're getting to the 80-plus pitches in one game. What's your process for that?
Well, when you get a little bit deeper into the game or, you get second, third time through the order, your stuff might not play as well. Your fastball might not have that little jump to it that it did in the first, few innings. So I kind of think that's where the command comes back into it. Being able to locate pitches and knowing what your stuff is going to do every single pitch. Sometimes slider may back up. Sometimes, last time I hung that slider, Darno got me. So, but most of the time, how your stuff is going to move. So you kind of just play it off of that. Maybe be a little safer later on in the game, or maybe miss off the plate on purpose a little bit more, see if they're chasing. It's all a process out there, seeing if guys are aggressive or stuff like that. So obviously depends on how the game's going also. If you need to be more aggressive or you can pull back a little bit, depending on the score or, how things are going. So, but going deeper in the game, like I said, your stuff isn't going to play as high as it was early in the game. So you just play that kind of cat and mouse game.
A quick follow-up. How do you can you prepare for the crowd at Citizens Bank Park? I mean, your job requires a lot of concentration.
Yeah.
We have loud Phillies fans.
Yeah, they are loud. And, I've pitched here in the playoffs before, so that definitely helps. But, when we went to Atlanta, they were cheering like crazy when they got some guys on. And I feel like it really didn't bother me all that much. But, at the same time, we don't hear a lot of stuff out there when we're on the mound. Obviously you do hear it, but you try to zone it out and the best you can and not feed into it, whether you're at home or on the road, because you're at home and crowds cheering for you, may try to overthrow or stuff like that. So you just try to stay on an even line, and maybe with 2 strikes you kind of let them get in there a little bit so you could try to pump it up a little bit. But I don't know, the crowd's going to be there for sure, and it's a lot of fun to pitch in front of them.
All the way in the back on the left.
Zack, a little offbeat, but did you have favorite pitchers growing up, and maybe guys that once you got into pro ball that were pretty instrumental and influential for you that you modeled yourself after? Yeah, I mean, there's different times in my life. Obviously, Phillies fans might not like this, but I grew up watching the Braves all the time. That's where I grew up. So watching, Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, those guys. Basically my whole life, just watching them pitch. They were dominant and they won a lot of ball games. So watching them growing up, but ever since I got into pro ball, I honestly, I didn't like watching baseball all that much, but when I did get hurt, I watched a lot of baseball because I was just sitting there in Florida just watching baseball. And that was a time where I told myself I was going to watch some of the best pitchers in the game, whether they're righty or lefty, to see how they approach games, how they attack hitters, maybe,
how they, I don't know, this is how they attack hitters and attack the game, basically. And, you know, you watch all the best, Verlander, DeGrom, Kershaw, all those type of guys, Scherzer. I mean, you know, they just go right after guys. They trust their stuff. They had the stuff to get guys out, but they trust it at the same time. And basically, you know, here it is. Hit it if you can. And if you can't hit it, it's going to be well located. And whether it's up, down, on the corners. It's not always just sometimes you're going to miss in the middle, but most of the time it's missing off the plate or, you know, to one side or the other. So I think this execution was a big part of, you know, their game. And I just try to, you know, take all that in and put it towards my game after I came back.
Dave on the right side on the aisle towards the back.
Hey, Zack. I mean, you were a highly touted prospect. You had Tommy John earlier in your career. Did you always envision yourself as being a guy who would be a game one starter for a perennial playoff team, or is that something that gets built up over time as year after year after year of success?
Yeah, I think you said it well. I think it's something that I think you envision that. Like, that's something that you always want to do for sure. And I knew I had the talent to do it. I just wasn't consistent when I was a little younger. So now I'm a little more consistent, and, you know, I take pride in taking the ball game one. You know, it's definitely an honor. You know, you got Knowles over here and Ranger and Ty and Sanchi. I mean, they're all throwing the ball really well. So, you know, it's definitely an honor to take the ball game one, and you take a lot of pride in that, and it's setting the tone that first game. You know, that's a big deal for me. So you got to set the tone the first game and try to get that win.
And how much did the Phillies faith in you, Zack, when they gave you that contract? I mean, does that change something in the way you think about yourself, or?
Well, you got to live up to it, right? Like,
right.
You know,
is that part? Do you think that brings out a different part of yourself when that happens? Or?
I think playing in New York made me a little tougher for sure. You know, you see guys coming in and out of there. Certain guys get booed that you would never thought got booed, or, you know, less. I don't know, guys that maybe didn't expect anything out of them, they get cheered like crazy. So, you know, I think you just got to put your head down and just do the best that you can, play hard. Fans respect that. Once you mess up, you got to take ownership for it. And you know, I think that's the biggest thing. You got to have respect for the fans, and they'll have respect for you for the most part. And you know, I think you know, Philly's great about that. You know, we've had instances here where guys have messed up and they've owned it, and, you know, now look at them. So, you know, it's a lot of fun playing here.
Jesse, right in front of Dave.
It's kind of a perfect follow-up to that. You mentioned New York. Going back to the Trey Turner standing ovation, I mean, there's a scenario where he would have went up to the plate and gotten booed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think he got that instead of the boo, which might be more normal in New York or Philly in the past? And then I have a follow-up to that as well.
Why did he get cheered for?
Yeah, instead of booed.
I don't know. I mean, you know, he's going to be here for a long time, and I think the fans, they're knowledgeable here, and they know that. You know, I think he knows that he wasn't playing up to maybe his standard early on, and that's fine. It's going to happen over people's careers, right? Like, something may have been going on with him, I don't know, but I mean, there's a lot of pressure. You know, you sign that contract, there's a lot of pressure, and these fans, they love their sports here, and, you know, if you aren't living up to that, they're going to let you know. But at the same time, no, that's why it's fun to play here, because they understand sports, and they know he's going to be here for a long time, so they decided to cheer him, and look what he's done ever since. I mean, it's special for sure.
And does that have an impact on other players, you think? Meaning, like, if you have some failures,
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going to lose the crowd. I can get. They might be behind me.
For sure. I mean, you know, like I just said, you're gonna have your ups and downs, but you know, as long as you're playing the best you can and hard and own up to stuff, they're gonna respect you for the most part, and that's all you can ask for as a player.
John on the left.
Zack, a theme of this roster is that star free agents like you want to come here and play. And I'm wondering if you could reflect on your journey, your free agency, which players on the team at that time or people with the organization were key recruiters to bring you here? And then the follow-up there is, have you helped put some phone calls out there to build this roster yourself in the last couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I had my options, that's for sure, during free agency. And, you know, it's being on the East Coast, I think, was a big thing for me. It wasn't, you know, that in particular, but being on the East Coast is a big thing for me. I get to go back home to Atlanta a couple times a year. see the house and sleep in my own bed, that type of stuff. And my wife's family's from Jersey, so they help out with the kids as much as possible. And that's definitely a big thing when I'm away from the house all the time, that my wife has some help. But being in New York and playing against Phillies all the time, and growing up in Atlanta and seeing the Phillies all the time, the fans are one of the best in the game, if not the best. And I think we've seen that in the playoffs. And it's special to play here. And I think guys are starting to recognize that. We got a good ball club, great city, great fans. You can't ask for much more. Great ownership, great front office. I mean, Dave is doing a great job putting this roster together. And you got guys like Harper who, are fun to watch. And Trey is one of my favorite players over the years, playing against him, and I always wish I could play with him. And now I get to. So that's definitely a lot of fun to watch him play every day. Pitching next to Knowles is great. And, just having guys come in and want to play here, that's pretty special. And it's fun to be on a team like that.
Take two last ones, Anthony, and then we'll come up front.
Hey, Zach, you played the whole first portion of your career without ever having made the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Once you did last year, what sort of curiosity did you have about how your own abilities would stack up in these types of games? And, just what sort of curiosity did you have?
I think there's definitely curiosity. I mean, what type of stuff you have. And, I've had good seasons before last year. So you wanted to carry it into the playoffs, but everybody's game steps up a little bit also. So I don't know. I mean, me being a little older now, maybe when I was a little younger, I'd try to overthrow in a big situation like this. But now I know you just try to stay the same person, same ball player, and just pitch your game. Don't try to overthrow. Don't try to do too much. And having a great bullpen, that definitely helps, right? Like you don't have the pressure of trying to go too far in the game, and it's easy to hand it off to those guys when the time calls, basically.
And last one up in the front.
I think a big theme of a lot of the questions and throughout the season has been the cohesive unit you've built up with the rest of the guys. I was wondering how this, affects your approach to every now on the mound, looking to go all 9 innings versus, when the skipper says, well, we got Craig in the bullpen ready to go.
Yeah.
You're just all right, I'll let it do it. How does that affect your approach to every night, knowing you have the trust of everyone on the team and the bullpen to get the job done?
Yeah, I mean, it's special, especially this day and age, starters are not going as deep. So I still have the same mindset as, you want to hear the, 7th inning stretch or whatever you want to call it. You want to make it past the 7th every single time, and that's my goal every single outing is make it past the 7th. If I go more, that's great. If I go less, it depends on the results if it's still good or not. But that's my goal is go 7 or more every time, and it saves the bullpen. And this is when we need them the most. And if you're going 5 innings every time, it's these guys are going to be struggling this time of year, and this is when we need them most. So, be able to hand the ball off to those guys is pretty cool.
All right, thanks a lot, Zach. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good. Thanks, guys.